Who is going to make the EFL Championship playoffs? Get your views in the comments. I'm going to give you mine right now. I'm just going to start with an apology because I was supposed to be doing this live tonight in the Middlesbrough Blackburn watch along that we'd advertised, but two signs I'm going mad or old or both. The first one, I've agreed to go to a 40th birthday party, and the second one, I forgot that I agreed to go to a 40th birthday party. So we'll try and get on for the Luton Leeds game tomorrow. But we will talk about the playoffs right here, right now. And we know that the first part of this conversation is that third and fourth up there is pretty well locked up. First of all, we know that third is going to be one or other of Sheffield United, Leeds or Burnley. The bookies say Burnley odds on to finish in the playoffs. Sheffield United 2-1 and Leeds 5-2. So they think it's most likely to be the team that's there right now, Burnley. Look, I've done my end of season 1-24 predictions, so you'll know who I think is going to finish where. But the way I'll kind of reframe this is who would be the best playoff side out of those three rather than who's going to get in there. I think Burnley probably would be the best playoff side. By that, I mean the qualities you look for in a team that's going to win the playoffs are not the qualities you look for in a team that's going to get automatic promotion in the league. Because one is league football, one is tournament football. You've got that extra jeopardy in tournament football, which means it skews towards teams that are good at defending, that can play to not lose, and that can win ugly. And certainly in terms of Burnley, the incredible defensive record they've put out is absolutely ludicrous. You wouldn't fancy over 180 minutes being able to score a couple of goals past Burnley, would you? Also, when we talk about the other two sides there, Sheffield United have won 15 times by a single goal. You're probably fed up with me repeating that statistic, but I think it's fantastic. 15 times in the EFL by a single goal. They know how to win, and take this as a compliment, Blades fans, they know how to win ugly, where they're just kind of in a game and they need to get the job done. That's what often happens in the playoffs. The days of the wild 90s where we had amazing high-scoring games are long, long gone. This is tournament football. People are very wise to it. Playoff games are tense, tight, and generally not very exciting, which probably means that Leeds United, not just because of some PTSD, insecurity, nerves thing that Daniel Farker spoke very illuminatingly about in his press conference yesterday. I recommend you watch that is attached to Leeds as a club. But talk about this specific side and manager and the evidence of last season. You just probably don't think that they're going to be the greatest playoff team, do you? I know they drew the first leg 0-0 and won 4-0. You'd say that 0-0 is a classic go away. They went away to Norwich, didn't they, Leeds last year? Got a 0-0 and then pummeled Norwich in the home. It was 4-0, wasn't it? Yeah. But then they lost in the final. Look, Leeds have got good defence. Everybody's got a good defence. I think we get a bit confused with defences because we compare them all to Burnley this season. But Leeds and Sheffield United have both got very good defensives, regardless of what the Leeds keeper situation has been. Look at the clean sheet numbers and the actual XG against. I think Leeds have got the best XG against in the entire league. Maybe the keeper situation might clear that up, given the change that we know that's going to be happening this week. But what I would say about defences win tournaments, win ugly, tight games, cope with tension, that doesn't skew well towards Leeds, does it, when you compare to the other two? So that's all I'll say, is that we know third place will be either Sheffield United, Leeds or Burnley. And you probably fancy Burnley, then Sheffield United and then Leeds in that order. But we're comparing those three teams against each other. Remember, the right comparison is we've got to compare them against, first of all, whoever finishes in sixth place, and then whoever makes the final out of fourth and fifth. And are Sheffield United, Leeds and Burnley better than those teams? Well, yes, of course they are. The point I'm making is it's tournament football and I'm comparing the three there. Anyway, shall we move on to Sunderland, who are definitely going to finish fourth. In fact, I had a look at the odds and I thought, where is Sunderland to finish in the playoffs? You can't bet on Sunderland to finish in the playoffs. It's so nailed on. All I'm going to raise quickly for the Sunderland fans is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, these are to any fans. Get your thoughts in the comments. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that you know way before the playoffs that you're going to be in the playoffs? Yeah? I'm not entirely not entirely sure, really. If you take someone like West Brom last season, they knew miles before that they were going to be in there. Did it really help? Take someone like Huddersfield. Remember when Huddersfield won it with David Wagner? They knew a few games before and they rested players and they went proper tournament football, 0-0, 1-1, penalties, 0-0 in the final penalties. It worked for them. So I don't know how it's going to work with Sunderland. What I will say about Sunderland, and we talked about Burnley, Leeds and Sheffield United, we know they're going to be in there. Are they going to be a good playoff team? I think they've got a few of the qualities that are needed to be a good playoff team. They've got a few players who can win them a game. They could do with Lefay getting back in time for the end of May. I don't know what the timeline is there. People like Bellingham, the wingers as well, Mayenda, Mundell. God, who's the... Pat Roberts. I can't remember Sunderland players here. They've got players who can win them a game. And I've done plenty of watch-alongs of Sunderland this season, particularly away from home, where they've gone... In that Leeds game, that was a proper playoffy performance where they were pretty defensive, kept it tight, kept it narrow, 4-4-2 without the ball. That will work really well in the playoffs. And I've taken the liberty of noting down their scores against the current top six. A 2-1 win and a 1-0 defeat against Sheffield United. So that aggregates out at a 2-2, doesn't it? And they're quite unlucky in the game at Bramall Lane, weren't they? They missed a penalty in that game. And they missed 2 penalties at Burnley, who they've got an aggregate 1-0 win over 2 legs. Leeds, 4-3 aggregate Sunderland, and we all know it was a very... Okay, look, there were late goals in both of those games, but it was tight, wasn't it? The problem one is Coventry, where it's a 2-2 draw at home and a 3-0 defeat away, and the 3-0 defeat is recent. I know a lot of you will comment on this video and say, Ben, is it that relevant to be talking about stuff that happened in September and August? Well, fair point. But it's the information we've got about these teams facing each other, isn't it? So it might be a problem for Sunderland if they face Coventry. And look at that right now. That's who they'd be facing. 5-2 aggregate there. Interestingly, West Brom was a 0-0. And the very next game, I mean, you may be watching this after it's happened and know more than I, the very next game this coming weekend, in fact, tomorrow, as I'm speaking, is West Brom versus Sunderland, 4th versus 6th. So we will learn a little bit more, but I quite like the idea of Lebris and Sunderland. But just give me your thoughts on the psychology of knowing ages before whether you're going to be in it or not. Right, let's talk about 5th and 6th. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going down as far as Bristol City. So I will, it's a 3-game week coming up, and then we get Easter. I will happily make another playoff video and talk about Watford, Norwich, Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday. Go even lower if Millwall and... Well, Preston are way back, aren't they, on 47 points. We'll include Millwall, who are not on the graphic up there. But I'm not going to talk about Watford, Norwich, Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday today. However, if they have a really good 3-game week and they've caught up to a nice distance, look, it's a 5-point gap currently, so it's a big swing needed over 3 games. Possible, or they've even got in there, then obviously we'll redo this video then and we will make mention of them. But right now, given the speed that teams score points at, and I do acknowledge I'm the one who's been saying all season, yeah, it's slow and it's a low tide. But generally speaking, given the speed teams score points at in a playoff race, it's going to be hard for the 5 points to be made up over the final 7 games. Possible, and like I say, I'll redo it and talk about Watford, Norwich and Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday. Have I caveated that enough for those sets of fans? Coventry are very interesting because if you look at short-term form, you could probably make some arguments against them. However, we knew that they had a tough run of fixtures. So 2 defeats in 3. One of them was at Derby, but by God, Derby is a hard game at the moment. They are pulling away from the bottom. 4 wins on the trot for the Rams. We also knew that they had a run of Sunderland, Sheffield United and Burnley. Now, they've beaten Sunderland. Great. Well beaten by Sheffield United, and I think most Coventry fans would admit that too. Sheffield United were really good, weren't they? They now play Burnley. Now, if Coventry were to draw against Burnley, I think you'd probably say fair enough. Win, lose, draw in 3 hard games. 4 points in 3. It's over a point per game, isn't it? God, if you were getting 5 points in 3, that would mean you were undefeated, which would be really good. If you're getting 6 points in those 3 games, which they can do if they beat Burnley, you're saying, wow, okay, 2 points per game against, rivals in a 3-game streak as well. We'll find out what they do against Burnley tomorrow. But take the take the form back. Let's go over a longer time horizon here. Coventry are very good. Fourth over the last 21 games. 21, nearly half a season. So they should be able to ride that out to 23. Whether you do or not, I always look at 23 games as a great sample size. That is half an EFL season, isn't it? And of course, you would imagine, given the points differential, the only 3 sides that have been better than Coventry over those last 24 games are the teams that are miles away, those 3 parachute teams up the top there. And therefore, you can say about Coventry, they are the best of the rest. Other than the top 3, they're the best side in the division. But I hear you all say, Ben, one of those 3 teams is going to be in the playoffs. Fair comment. I agree with you. So, yeah, maybe if they can overtake one of those in terms of form, then we could make a more tangible argument that Coventry can win the playoffs. 10 wins in 13. However, defeats to Sheffield United and Leeds, and we'll find out about Burnley. I'm worried if I'm a Coventry fan, if they do get in there. If they lose to Burnley tomorrow, all the Coventry fans are going to be saying, okay, we can get in there. Maybe we can reach the final. But in recent times, we are losing head-to-head against those top 3 teams. So are the chances there, even if Coventry do get to the final, and God, they've had some Wembley heartbreak, that they're going to lose to whoever finishes in 3rd. Remember, contrary to what people say about the playoffs, do your research. This myth of someone coming from nowhere and winning from 6th, it just doesn't happen anymore. I think it's like once in the last 10, 15 years or something. The team who finishes 6th has won the playoffs, and they rarely get to the final. Darby got to the final. Are they the last one? I can't quite remember. But 3rd and 4th are generally the winners on average, particularly when you take out the wild 90s while people were adjusting to the playoffs being a new concept in the first decade. Yeah, Burnley next. Coventry also play West Brom in round 43, and Borough, who we are going to talk about, in round 46. Although I do accept the argument, don't bank too much on round 46 fixtures, because it's a fool's errand, because it is often done before then. We often look at it and go, oh, tasty. Is that going to be a playoff? I think Coventry and Middlesbrough play in round 46 the season when they actually met in the playoffs. I think they might have, mightn't they? If I'm not misremembering that. Correct me in the comments. West Brom. So, look, I think Coventry are a good side and they've got a really good chance of getting in there. Go figure, they're 5th. West Brom, 5 wins in the first 6 of this season. Hot start under Carlos Corber. And we're all sitting there saying, is this guy a genius? Is he going to go toe-to-toe with the parachute teams and beat them? No, he's not there anymore. And this is problematic for West Brom. Take out, and okay, call this a bit of nefarious statting from me. Take out the hot start, the first 6 games. The next 33 games, have a guess quickly. Have you had a guess? The next 33 games, West Brom, 14th. 1-4, 14th. Not only are they not a playoff team over 33 games, they're not even a top half team. And there's been a managerial change. I know there's been a bit of an uptick, has there, with Brady? There's certainly been a bit of a change in style over the time he's been there, in terms of being a bit more front-footed. Corberon was very stoic, very good for playoffs, you would think. So I've got to say, I'm not sure about West Brom getting in there. And Sunderland, round 40, we've already mentioned. Bristol City, round 41. We talk about Bristol City in a minute. All the Bristol City fans are going to be marking that as whoop. Slipstream overtake, possibly then, because it's at Bristol City as well, I think, isn't it? Coventry, round 43. So, fair play. If West Brom do get in there, that means they're probably going to pick up 4 or 5 points and go unbeaten. Maybe in those 3 sort of head-to-head-ish games against the teams that are currently 4th, 6th and 8th. All dotted all around them. So they'll deserve it if they get in there. I'm less sure about West Brom. Middlesbrough. And I just pull that face. That's my Middlesbrough face. And I'm sure the Middlesbrough fans will understand exactly why I'm pulling that face. It's just been so confusing this season. I have very high hopes for Michael Carrick after his first part of a season in charge. They're brilliant, weren't they, Middlesbrough? Got done by Coventry in the playoffs. But you think, okay, grow next season. Yeah, fine. Then there's no Akpom, there's no Archer, there's no Ramsey, there's no Giles. He has to rebuild the team. That was a long time ago now. And there's plenty of evidence since then to say that they're just a little bit flaky. aren't they? Now, if you want to obsess over a 6-game form table, you'll find Borough have 13 points in 6, which is really, really good. By God, they get 13 points in the next 6 games. They're at 70 with that final game of the season against Coventry to play. It's probably going to either be very close or they're probably already going to be in there because we don't think it's going to be a massively high total to get in, particularly in 6th place this season. The issue I've got is those 4 wins in the last 6. Stoke, Darby. Yes, I did say 5 minutes ago Derby are a difficult game now. QPR and Oxford. That was before Derby's run. And what have I got? 18th, 19th, 20th. QPR are 15th, by the way, but they are in dreadful form as well. So if you wanted to sit here and say, yeah, Ben, 4 wins in 6, but who have they really beaten? I would say, fair comment. So I'm not sure about Borough either. And we've got this weirdness with Borough where they're second in the XG table. And I know a lot of people get very upset about that particular probability statistic. But if you are able to cope with a probability statistic and stay calm, you'll probably read into that the same as me, that they're kind of a good side, but they don't do that thing where you make advantage of all your passes and look at touches in the box and shots and big chances. But 14 defeats, which doesn't bode well for being a good playoff team. Even if you get in there, you've got to, ride out, win ugly, all of that stuff. So, yeah, flaky. But hey, look, remember, we're dealing with a team that finishes 6th. That's the last place in the top quartile, the top 25% of the division. And those people that get very upset about the possibility of someone, I love the playoffs, but some people get very upset. Normally fans of teams that finish 3rd, to be fair. So there is a particular motivation to that view. And there's no liar like a motivated liar, is there? But we can have that conversation later in the season. I'm sure we will. The playoffs are unfair. Look and see who the fans of, or who the people saying that are fans of, by the way. It's very, very revealing indeed. But yeah, we're talking about sides that are very imperfect if they're finishing in 6th. And by God, currently, look at that, 57 to 81, 24 points difference between 6th and 3rd, which is why you'd think 3rd would be hot favourites. But it's tournament football. Right, Bristol City I actually quite like as getting in there. And I know you can say, oh, okay, they're literally level on points. 6 behind Baggies on goal difference, 3 behind Borough on goal difference. I like the idea of Bristol City as a playoff team. I think those intangibles of hard to beat, methodical, win ugly. Also, you like teams that are good at home, especially if they're finishing 5th and 6th. Can you win that home game 1-0 in leg 1 and make it very jolly difficult then? The team that finishes high has really got to come at you in the second leg, haven't they? And we know playoff history, regardless of what happened with Sheffield Wednesday and Peterborough or Leeds and Derby, in fact, generally, you win the first leg, you're 1 foot at Wembley, aren't you? History says. Last 17 for Bristol City, they are 5th. Only 3 defeats in that time, so they're hard to beat. Only 3 home defeats all season, and 2 with Sheffield United and Burnley back to back. Yes, again, I accept the argument. There probably might well be a very high chance they're going to play one of those 2 if they finish 6th in their semi-final. Now, really big games coming up for Bristol City. This is the only issue, that they're going to have to be at it right from this point in head-to-heads in crunch games, which will prep you very nicely for the playoffs. Watford next. You can see there. Sorry, wrong hand. I'm mirrored. They're going to want to keep them at arm's length. Beat them, and that's Bristol City pretty much set to finish higher. It'll be a 7-point gap, won't it, with 6 to play. Then West Brom, and that's massive because that is a huge head-to-head where Bristol City will be going, right, it's in our hands. Beat West Brom, make the overtake, stay in 6th position. And remember, Middlesbrough do play Leeds in the middle of next week as well when this is all happening. Sunderland as well is coming, which would be a nice mock test. I don't think Bristol City would finish 5th, where they'd be playing Sunderland in the semi-final. I think that's probably Coventry's position, isn't it? But I think they could finish 6th. 3 of the next 4 at home as well. And they're good at home, Bristol City. I'm going to give you a stat really quickly to tell you. 5th in the home table all season, 10 points in the last 4. And of course, you can imagine it's the top 4 in the league table that are better at home. I always like the idea that your fixtures are front loaded and you're not going into, you're finishing Easter and you've got 2 games to go and you're basically outside of it and you've got to win both and hope someone else slips up ahead of you. That's not the situation you want. You want to front load your winnings, as we talked about Stoke at the bottom, where it's like 4 easier fixtures and then 4 tougher fixtures. Get out of Dodge early. For Bristol City, get into Dodge, the top 6, early. And I think they could do it. So there you go. That is my take on the playoffs. Again, I'll speak about Watford, Norwich, Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday after the 3-game week, if that's worked out really nicely for those. I don't know who's going to finish in 3rd spot. I think I had Burnley in my 1-24, and I think they would be super white-hot favourites to win the playoffs. I think they'd be the best set side out of those 3 who are likely to finish, or certain to finish in 3rd place, to go ahead and win it. I think they might play Bristol City in 6th. That'd be fascinating. I'm just not sure about West Brom hanging in there. And Middlesbrough could end the season with, 5 wins out of 7 or with 2 wins out of 7. I don't know. I think Coventry will be in there despite their hard little run at the moment. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's my current take on the playoff race. And as I've said quite a few times in this video, 3-game week coming up, rounds 40, 41, 42. I will very much enjoy doing this again. And will we be talking about fewer teams? Will we be talking about more teams? Will it cluster up even more? And we'll go into 40, 41, 42. The last 4, we're going into Easter, won't we? Which is always so pivotal. Not having a clue who's going to make particularly 6th place and maybe even 5th as well if it doesn't go great for Coventry. Get your thoughts in the comments. Fascinating as ever. I love the playoffs. You might not. This video is probably not for you. If you don't love the playoffs, what are you doing 22 minutes into a video about the playoffs? 22 minutes? I should shut up, for God's sake. What should we put up there? Let's put my video about League One. Because a lot of the fans of teams I have talked about will be still Championship fans next year. And I've talked about who's coming up potentially from League One. And you might want to know about them. So go and give it a look.